She was asked to step aside, judged not by her ticket, but by her simple gray sweater. Quietly, Olivia Bennett complied, stepping back without a fight. The attendants smirked, convinced they had put her in her place. But what they didn't know, by the next morning, the woman they dismissed would make their entire corporation bow its head. A single moment of prejudice would ignite a storm powerful enough to shake an entire empire. If you've ever been judged by appearances, if you believe true worth can't be seen at a glance, then like this video, share it to inspire others, and subscribe to our channel, because this is a story you'll never forget. Now let's dive into Olivia's incredible journey. She was asked to step aside by a flight attendant, someone who believed she wasn't classy enough to sit in first class. The woman, dressed simply in a gray sweater, didn't react. She simply nodded, stepped back, and stood to the side. But what the crew didn't know was that, just tomorrow, she would make their entire corporation bow its head. Olivia Bennett, 38, had long been regarded as one of the sharpest investment strategists in Seattle. But no one could guess that just by looking at her. Her shoulder-length hair was dark, and her face was almost bare of makeup. Her style prioritized practicality and comfort, like the gray cashmere sweater she was wearing today. Ms. Bennett, the board meeting has been confirmed for tomorrow. All the major shareholders will be there. Dylan's voice came through Olivia's Bluetooth headset as she moved through Kingford International Airport. Thank you, Dylan. What about the customer satisfaction report? Olivia asked in her low, steady voice, trying to weave through the crowd. I just received the preliminary data. The results aren't looking great. Olivia nodded slightly. This was exactly why she decided to take this flight. Northway Air had been losing customers for months. As the third largest individual shareholder, she had once proposed implementing a mystery passenger program to evaluate the airline's service quality. The board had agreed, but Olivia went a step further. She decided she would be the first mystery passenger. Update me if anything changes. She ended the call as she reached the first-class check-in counter. Here, Olivia presented her first-class ticket and ID. The staff member barely glanced at them, typing mechanically on the keyboard. Purpose of the trip, ma'am? The staff member asked in a flat tone. Business, Olivia replied, maintaining her intentionally unremarkable appearance. Gate 14A, board within 40 minutes. Olivia nodded her thanks and walked straight to security. In her carry-on, she only had essentials: a change of clothes, her laptop, and a small notebook where she jotted down all her observations. Today's flight would determine whether she should push for a complete overhaul of Northway Air's customer service. After passing through security, Olivia walked past the luxury stores to the first-class lounge once regarded as the jewel of the airline. But according to reports, the service quality had deteriorated significantly over the past year. At the entrance, Olivia handed her boarding pass to a young receptionist with a friendly smile. Welcome to Northway Prestige Lounge, Ms. Bennett. We hope you have a wonderful experience. Inside, Olivia surveyed the spacious but sparsely populated area. She noticed the staff quickly attended to the passengers dressed in luxury while they ignored the others. She mentally noted, selective service, understaffed, inconsistent attitude. An hour later, Olivia left the lounge to head to the gate. This flight to Denver was about an hour and a half long. She had made the trip dozens of times before. At gate 14A, she noticed a blonde attendant in a white uniform arguing sharply with an elderly couple. Sorry, we are boarding first-class passengers first. Please wait. Olivia frowned as she saw the attendant's tone completely change when a well-dressed man approached shortly after. Welcome aboard, sir. Have a wonderful flight. When it was her turn, Olivia handed over her boarding pass. The attendant at the gate, named Claire Morgan, gave it a quick glance before eyeing Olivia's simple attire. First class? Claire asked, her tone clearly skeptical. Yes, Olivia replied briefly. Claire raised an eyebrow, her perfectly groomed eyebrows shifting slightly. "Are you sure you're at the right gate? This is for first class." "I know. My seat is 1C, first class." Claire frowned, carefully rechecking the ticket. Her fingers, with perfectly manicured nails, tapped rapidly on the keyboard. Olivia mentally noted. This was the first test to see how Northway Air treats passengers who don't fit their luxury image. "Ma'am, please step aside. We need to verify your ticket." Claire's voice had shifted from skepticism to authority. Olivia noticed a few passengers starting to pay attention to the situation. Despite this, she remained calm but unyielding. "Is there something wrong with my ticket? Please step aside. We need to prioritize other first-class passengers." Claire gestured to the waiting area. Olivia observed Claire continue to board 3 well-dressed men without checking them as thoroughly as she had been. The discrimination was glaring. A few minutes passed in awkward silence as Olivia approached the counter again. "Sorry, I think I've waited long enough. The plane is starting to board." Claire didn't even look up. "I told you, we're verifying the tickets. First class is only for priority passengers. First-class passengers were given priority boarding." Claire Morgan's eyes briefly scanned Olivia Bennett's gray sweater and simple, coarse fabric trousers with a look of disdain. Perhaps there was a mistake in the booking system, she implied. "There's no mistake," Olivia replied calmly and evenly. Claire sighed dramatically before picking up the phone. She spoke quietly to the person on the other end of the line, occasionally glancing at Olivia with a look full of prejudice. Finally, she hung up, approached Olivia with a forced smile. "Ms. Bennett, we'll need to rebook your flight. It seems that the first-class cabin has been overbooked." Olivia's eyebrow arched slightly. "How interesting. I checked in online this morning and selected my seat." "It happens sometimes," Claire said sweetly, though her eyes remained cold. "We can offer you a seat in economy or rebook your first-class seat for a later flight." By now, a few passengers had started to watch the conversation with curious eyes. An older man nearby frowned in disapproval, while a young woman was secretly filming the exchange with her phone. "Could I speak with your manager?" Olivia asked gently. The smile on Claire's face froze. "The manager is unavailable at the moment. I'm authorized to handle this situation." She leaned in closer, lowering her voice to hiss. "Look, we both know this ticket is probably a mistake. People like you don't usually sit in first class on our airline." The words hung in the air. Olivia felt a spark of anger, but maintained her composure. "People like me?" "You know what I mean," Claire said, her gaze once again landing on Olivia's simple attire. "Our first-class experience is meant for a specific group of customers. We need to ensure that all our premium passengers feel comfortable." Another flight attendant, the same blonde woman, appeared from the jet bridge. Her eyes quickly scanned Olivia. "Everything okay, Claire?" "Just a small issue with the ticket," Claire replied. "Ms. Bennett thinks she should be seated in first class." The attendant, named Vanessa, flashed a cold smile. "I see." She turned to Olivia, placing her hand gently but firmly on her arm. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step out of the boarding area while we resolve this." "Step out?" Olivia repeated, clearly feeling the restraining gesture from Vanessa. "Yes," Vanessa said firmly. "The other first-class passengers are boarding, and we can't afford any disruptions." Olivia looked around the gate area. All eyes were on them. She could resist, make a scene, and demand to speak with someone higher up. But that wouldn't help the bigger purpose she had in mind. Instead, she quietly stepped back, pulling her arm free from Vanessa's grip. "I understand." The brief look of confusion on Claire and Vanessa's faces was evident. Clearly they didn't expect her to comply so easily. "I'll wait. But I'd like to know your employee IDs." The two women exchanged a glance. Vanessa reluctantly gave a thin smile. "That's not necessary. We're just following company procedure." Even so, Olivia took out her phone. "I'd like to record the information of the people I've interacted with today. Reluctantly, they provided the employee IDs. Olivia carefully noted them on her phone before quietly sitting down on a nearby row of seats, observing as the last few first-class passengers boarded. 10 minutes later, Claire returned with a new boarding pass. "We've found you a seat in economy, row 23, middle seat. This is the best option we have at the moment." Olivia accepted the ticket without protest. As she walked toward the economy boarding area, she took out her phone and sent a brief message to Dylan. "Plan changed. Move tomorrow's meeting to 9 a.m. Call legal. I want them there." As she entered the plane, Olivia gave a slight nod to Vanessa, who was standing at the cabin door. The flight attendant's smug expression faltered for a moment at Olivia's calm demeanor. Walking past the first-class cabin, the one she'd been denied access to, Olivia noted every detail. This wasn't a failure. This was evidence. The middle seat in economy wasn't particularly comfortable, but Olivia didn't mind the lack of legroom. In her mind, a plan had begun to form. She opened her notebook, ignoring the passenger next to her, who was taking up nearly half of the seat. At the top of the page, she wrote one sentence: "Is this issue systemic?" She underlined it twice. Vanessa walked by, deliberately avoiding eye contact. Olivia observed how the flight attendant's behavior changed completely when serving well-dressed passengers. Warm, attentive. As for the others, rushed, reluctant. When the beverage cart arrived, Olivia pressed the call button and asked for a glass of water. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, Vanessa returned. "You need to be patient. We're serving the entire flight." Her tone made no effort to hide her annoyance. Olivia noticed that the woman sitting across from her had just asked for a drink and was served almost immediately. Another piece of data. She opened her laptop, carefully tilting the screen to avoid prying eyes. Olivia tilted her laptop screen to one side to avoid prying eyes, then accessed the secure server. This was the real reason the Northway Air executive team had agreed to implement the mystery passenger program she had proposed. Customer satisfaction scores had sharply declined over the past 8 months, coinciding with the time Emily Cross, the new customer experience director, had started her tenure. Olivia opened Emily's profile. On paper, Cross had an impressive resume. From the luxury retail sector, she had promised to elevate the airline's first-class service. But the actual data told a different story. And complaints had increased by 47%, most related to discriminatory behavior and inconsistent service. Olivia's fingers quickly skimmed the keyboard. She documented the entire experience of the day in objective, detailed language. Along with that, she attached the photos of her boarding pass, the timestamp when she was denied first-class boarding, and the employee IDs she had collected. A notification popped up on her screen. It was an email from Dylan with an attached file. Olivia opened it. Inside was a collection of testimonies from 17 former Northway Air employees, all pointing to a disturbing pattern: preferential treatment for passengers with the right appearance, using covert classifications, and instructing staff to move or cancel the seats of those who didn't fit the brand image. She had quietly built this file over the past few months. Today's experience wasn't a mere isolated incident. It was the final piece of evidence confirming what she had suspected all along. Olivia opened another file, the shareholder agreement of Northway Air. She reviewed the ethics clause that the legal team had insisted be added when she invested in the company 3 years ago. Her lips subtly curved into a smile as she read through Section 7. 3. Systematic evidence of discriminatory behavior would be grounds for immediate action by the Board of Shareholders, including the removal of senior leadership. Olivia drafted 3 emails, one to her legal team. Prepare the temporary lawsuit file under Section 7.3, complete it by tomorrow morning. The second email to her media partners. Prepare a press release, ready to be published at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The final letter to Northway's board secretary. Under Section 11, 2 of the shareholder agreement, I formally request to speak for the first 20 minutes of tomorrow's meeting. This is a mandatory request. As the plane began its descent into Denver, Olivia closed her laptop and leaned back in the cramped seat. She caught Vanessa's gaze from the front of the cabin. Still, that cold, disdainful look. Olivia just smiled politely, and that smile made the flight attendant falter for a moment. Vanessa had no idea that in less than 24 hours, Olivia would completely change the direction of Northway Air, starting with the department she represented. The plane landed smoothly. The passengers around her hurried to gather their belongings. Olivia remained seated, writing one final line in her journal. They never asked why I'm going to Denver. If they had, maybe they would have realized their mistake sooner. I'm heading to the headquarters of their own company. The office building of Bennett Equity Group occupied the entire 41st floor of a modern skyscraper in downtown Arlington. By 7 a.m., Olivia was already there. Her gray sweater had been replaced with a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit, transforming her entire appearance. The legal team was waiting in conference room 3. Dylan said as he placed a hot cup of coffee on her desk. And I've compiled all the documents as requested. Olivia nodded. The members of the Northway Air Board had confirmed they would be present at 9 a.m. No one had refused when they heard her name was the one calling the meeting. Dylan hesitated. There's one more thing. The video recorded by a passenger at the boarding gate yesterday, it's going viral. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Show me. Dylan handed her a tablet. The image was shaky, but clearly showed Claire and Vanessa discriminating against Olivia, especially the moment she was asked to leave the first-class area. The video title was clearly visible. Northway Air denies first-class passenger for not dressing up. Class discrimination in the air. It's already over 40,000 views in just one night, Dylan said. Olivia watched the clip. Interesting timing. Has the airline responded yet? A standard response. We are investigating the incident. They still don't know the person in the video is you. They'll know soon enough. Olivia stood up from her chair. Let's head to conference room 3. It's time to take action. She stood before her team. 4 lawyers, 2 data specialists, and the CFO. The screen behind them displayed the presentation they had prepared overnight. Northway's discriminatory policies are not just ethically wrong, Olivia said, pointing to the chart. They are financially damaging. Customer retention rates have dropped by 23%, first-class bookings are plummeting, and stock prices have lost 17% in value over the last 6 months. And I've experienced this firsthand. Rachel Lynn, the chief legal advisor, spoke up. Olivia nodded. And I've documented everything. But one incident isn't enough. Show me what else we have. Marcus, the data analyst, stood up to continue. We've recorded 116 complaints in the last quarter with the same pattern. Passengers being denied service, downgraded, or discriminated against simply because of their appearance or social status. The passengers who were denied service, downgraded, or mistreated simply because of their appearance or social status. We have verified 43 documented cases. Isabel, the second analyst in the team, added in a serious tone. The most important piece of evidence is this internal memo, sent by Emily Cross to the head attendants. She projected the email onto the large screen, highlighting a paragraph. Remember the new strategy for first class. It's our flagship product, and we need to maintain the premium image. Use personal judgment when handling passengers who might diminish the experience for our high-value clientele. Olivia felt a cold wave rising within her as she read those lines. This not only violates the ethical clause we signed, but it could also be in direct violation of federal regulations regarding anti-discrimination in aviation. Rachel, what's our next strongest move? Rachel opened the file in front of her. We have 3 options. 1. Initiate an internal investigation process from the board, but that's slow and likely to get buried. 2. Launch a media campaign, leveraging your experience as leverage. It's effective, but it could cause chaos. 3. Use Section 7.3, allowing for immediate action from the board when there's evidence of serious ethical violations. Option 3. Olivia decided firmly, "We need enough votes." "I hold 22% of the shares," her CFO spoke up. "We've identified at least 31% of other shareholders who would likely support this if presented with the evidence." "That's enough to force the board into action," Olivia nodded. She turned to Dylan. "Is everything ready for the presentation?" Dylan chuckled lightly. "Just as you requested. The outfit from yesterday has been prepared, and we've recreated the entire experience at the boarding gate." Olivia checked her watch. 8:15 a.m. It's time to get ready. They won't know what's waiting for them. Northway Air's boardroom exuded corporate grandeur. Polished wooden tables, luxurious leather chairs, and floor-to-ceiling glass windows offering a panoramic view of downtown Arlington. At exactly 8:55 a.m., all 13 board members were present, along with the executive team, including CEO Leon Grant and Customer Experience Director Emily Cross. They were talking softly, curiosity evident in their eyes. A board emergency meeting was rare, especially when called by a shareholder as silent as Olivia. At 9 a.m., the door opened. All conversation immediately ceased as Olivia walked in, not in a luxurious suit, but in the same outfit from yesterday, a gray sweater, simple trousers. Several board members couldn't hide their surprise. CEO Leon Grant was the first to regain his composure, stepping forward to shake her hand. "Ms. Bennett, this is a surprise. We usually see your representatives, not you in person. Today, you need me in person." Olivia shook his hand firmly. Emily Cross leaned over to whisper something into the ear of the man next to her, causing him to chuckle softly. Olivia noted it without commenting. "I understand you've requested to speak at the start of the meeting," the board chair spoke up. "The floor is yours." Olivia walked to the head of the table, her voice calm and steady. "Thank you, Mr. Davis. Before I get to the main presentation, I'd like to ask Ms. Cross a question." Emily sat up straight, a bit surprised. "Yes? Does your new first-class strategy involve instructing staff to discriminate against passengers based on their appearance?" The room fell silent instantly. Emily's smile faltered. "I don't understand what you're referring to." "Really?" Olivia picked up the remote. "Because yesterday I directly experienced your strategy." She pressed a button. The video recorded at the boarding gate played on the large screen, clearly showing Olivia being denied, asked to leave the area, and blocked from entering first class. When the clip ended, Olivia spoke. "Now I'll show you what happens to passengers who don't fit your premium image." She pressed the second button. The screen divided into multiple frames, playing clips of other passengers being treated rudely, denied service, or kicked out of priority areas. A total of 43 cases just in the last quarter. Olivia's voice was steady. All of these were in line with Ms. Cross's directive to maintain the brand aesthetic in first class. Emily began to fidget. "These are isolated incidents. You can't—" "This is the internal memo you sent to the head attendants." Olivia cut her off, projecting the email onto the screen. "And here are the testimonies from 17 former employees confirming these directives weren't just encouraged, they were mandatory." CEO Leon Grant's face turned noticeably pale. "Ms. Bennett, if these are true, this doesn't align with the company's official policy." "These are true," Olivia responded firmly. "I experienced them firsthand. And under Section 7.3 of the Shareholder Agreement. Section 7.3 of the Shareholder Agreement clearly states, Documented evidence of systematic discriminatory behavior is grounds for urgent action by the board of directors. The company's lawyer, a stern woman seated at the end of the table, leaned forward. Ms. Bennett, specifically, what are you proposing? Olivia signaled to her team waiting outside the glass-walled meeting room. My legal team has prepared all the necessary documents. I am officially exercising my rights as a major shareholder to demand the immediate dismissal of those responsible and to implement comprehensive anti-discrimination measures across the entire organization. Emily Cross jumped to her feet. This is absurd. You can't have the authority to do that. I own 22% of the company, Miss Cross, Olivia replied calmly, and I have secured the support of shareholders holding an additional 34%. The room began to murmur. Leon Grant's face turned pale. Olivia continued. The video documenting my experience has surpassed 200,000 views in just one night. The company's stock dropped 4% in early trading this morning. If no action is taken swiftly, the reputational and financial damage will be irreparable. Chairman Davis cleared his throat. So, what specific actions are you proposing? Olivia opened her file and gently pushed the documents toward the center of the table. First, immediately remove Emily Cross. Issue an official statement acknowledging the discriminatory behaviors that occurred and commit to clear reform steps. Establish an independent Passenger Rights Protection Council with real authority. And finally, create a compensation fund for the affected customers. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink into the room. Either we act today, or I will publicly release all the evidence and file a class action lawsuit. What happened yesterday will only be the beginning. Leon Grant loosened his tie, his eyes darting back and forth between Olivia and the board members. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Olivia said firmly. No more hiding. This airline has had a systemic discrimination problem based on appearance and social status. And today, that ends. Chairman Davis reviewed the documents, then looked up, his gaze sweeping over the evidence still displayed on the screen. I believe Ms. Bennett has presented compelling evidence sufficient to warrant urgent action. He turned to the company's lawyer. What's your opinion? The lawyer remained calm, but her answer was unmistakably clear. The shareholder agreement is very clear. With the evidence presented and the shares Ms. Bennett has secured, we have no other option. Olivia stepped back, observing as silence began to fill the room. The balance of power had completely shifted. Those who had once looked at her with curiosity now couldn't hide their respect mixed with caution. Emily Cross felt the tide shifting. She struggled to fight back one last time. It's unfair to make such a big issue out of one person's experience. It's not just an experience. Olivia cut her off, her gaze never leaving Emily. It's a responsibility, something your leadership has sorely lacked. She signaled to Dylan. The door to the meeting room opened. Rachel Lynn and two other lawyers entered, bringing additional documents. Now, Olivia said as she took her seat at the head of the table, shall we begin the process of restructuring this airline? 1 week later, Olivia stood in the departure lounge of Northway Air at Kingford International Airport. The changes were evident. New signs outlining passenger rights, a diverse staff welcoming everyone, without discrimination. On the wall-mounted TV, a financial news channel reported that Northway's stock was recovering with a prominent headline, Leadership Shakeup Shakes the Industry. Northway transforms for the customers. Your flight is ready, Ms. Bennett, a gate agent announced, her eyes full of respect, a stark contrast to the contempt she had once received. As Olivia approached the gate, she caught a familiar face. Vanessa, the flight attendant who had once blocked her, now no longer in the first-class area. She was collecting tickets in the economy section. Her gaze lowered. Their eyes met. Vanessa recognized Olivia, her surprise and discomfort evident. Olivia simply nodded gently and continued on. On the plane, She was greeted by a new chief flight attendant, professional, polite, and sincere. "We've completely overhauled the service procedures. The new customer experience director informed you yesterday. All staff must undergo retraining." Olivia sat in her first-class seat, gazing out the window, her heart at peace. She had never intended to destroy Northway Air. Her goal was to reform it, so that what happened to her would never happen to anyone else. True power isn't about showing off. It's knowing when and how to wield it most effectively. The gray sweater now hung back in her closet, a reminder. Respect should never depend on appearances. Perhaps Olivia Bennett never needed first class to prove her worth. What she needed was a moment to show the world that respect isn't about appearance. Power isn't about position. It's about how you patiently observe and act at the right moment. A gray sweater, a rejected ticket, a historic meeting, and a woman who used wisdom instead of anger to change an entire system. If this story made you think, if you've ever been judged by appearances, share this video, because maybe someone else needs a turnaround like Olivia's. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this, filled with depth and inspiration. And what about you? Will you stay silent or take action? Leave a comment, because your story could be the change of tomorrow.